Woody and Mia at war.
Painful as that might be.
What about the kids? Go behind the scenes of this real-life battle. A family affair exposed Monday on A Closer Look.
It's a whole new Sunday on NBC, starting with two new hit shows that have captivated America. First, Secret Service. Experience real-life drama based on actual cases. Then, Eyewitness Video. Witness incredible footage of one person's narrow escape from death. Secret Service followed by Eyewitness Video. Then, imagine if the baby you brought home from the hospital wasn't yours. Don't miss the shocking NBC miniseries Switched at Birth. Sunday night on NBC.
America's most notorious female serial killer. Dateline, Tuesday.
Every human being wants to have a say. We want our needs and desires to be heard. And with a Chase Manhattan credit card, all you have to do is speak up. When would you like your bill to be due? What month would you like to skip a payment? Tell us. We're flexible. Because we want to be the credit card that gives you something others haven't. A say. Chase Manhattan. Profit from the experience.
I like the sound of a big juicy steak. Sizzler. Sounds good.
Oh, and a salad now, that sounds great.
Sizzler. Yeah. Sounds good.
Listen to this. A juicy sirloin steak and our all-you-can-eat salad bar. Two big favorites together for a short time for just $6.99.
I'm Ileana Bravo. Channel 4 and Discovery Cruise Line urge you to help the American Red Cross by giving blood this summer, a time when blood supplies are extremely low. If you donate blood, you could be one of 5,000 people selected to sail free on South Florida's favorite one-day cruise, Discovery. Some restrictions apply. Call 1-800-GIVE-LIFE.
This is tonight's official Florida Lottery Lotto game for August 22nd, 1992, supervised by Lottery Security and certified by KPMG Pete Marwick. This week's Lotto grand prize is worth an estimated $6 million to a single winner. Sally Lambert mixes balls 1 through 49. Here are this week's winning Lotto numbers. The first number is 23. The second number is 12. The third number is 42. The fourth number is 46. The fifth number is 20. And the last number is 27. So tonight's winning numbers 23, 12, 42, 46, 20, and 27. On September 18th, the next $1 million grand prize drawing will be held at Sandestin. Contestants are selected from entry tickets received by the lottery and can win from $10,000 to $1 million cash. Watch next Saturday's Lotto drawing to see if you're among the finalists.
Watch our teamwork. Channel 4 News.
From your 24-hour news source, this is the Channel 4 News Nightcast, number 1 at 11, with Jose Diaz-Balart, Jerry Heltman, Brian Allen Weather, Ned Smith Sports, and the Channel 4 News team.
Good evening. This is a special expanded edition of the Channel 4 News Nightcast. A hurricane watch is now in effect for South Florida. And for the next 60 minutes or so, we will try to answer all your hurricane questions. Team coverage begins now with meteorologist Brian Norcross.
Okay, Jose, a hurricane watch means that hurricane conditions are possible within the next 24 to 36 hours here in South Florida. As a matter of fact, all along the southeast Florida coast. But I want to actually emphasize and go past possible to say likely within the next 24 to 36 hours. It's just because of the timing of the situation. They want to get a good handle on where this storm is going to come ashore before they put the warning into effect. Now let's go ahead and go right to the numbers here and bring you up to date on what the latest advisory is. 25.6 north is the latitude. The longitude is 71.9 west. Winds now at 110 miles per hour, and that puts it right on the threshold between a Category 2 about to become a Category 3. Some increase in intensity is likely. It's expected this storm will come ashore, wherever it comes ashore, as a Category 3 storm, which is classified as a major hurricane with major life-threatening storm surge and damaging winds with significant damage to the coastal sections. Moving to the west at 14 miles per hour, there's the pressure, 959 millibars, or if you prefer, 28.32 inches. The storm is 520 miles due east of Miami. Now, it has been moving just slightly south. If you notice on your tracking map, just slightly south of due west. Now, it's not clear if that's just a temporary deflection or whether that is actually a trend. In any case, it's not good news for us, because even if the storm were to make a little more of a northern turn, the further south it goes, the more likelihood is that it is going to affect us. And I think as time goes on here, it is pretty clear that South Florida is going to have a direct effect, a direct hit somewhere in South Florida from this hurricane. Now, warnings are in effect. Hurricane warnings meaning that hurricane conditions are expected within the next 24 hours. So about 12 hours ahead of its arrival here, it would arrive in the Bahamas, and that's why they already have the warnings in effect. And also, of course, the Bahamas very vulnerable because of the very low-lying islands there, Nassau and Freeport included in those warnings. The watch in effect from Titusville, which is right up by Cape Canaveral, on down the coast and all the way through Key West to the Dry Tortugas. Now, tomorrow morning, a hurricane warning will be issued. We can say absolutely somewhere on the South Florida coast. Whether it'll be Dade, Broward, and Monroe County, whether it'll be just Dade on north, really depends on where the hurricane is. If this slight southern track continues, that hurricane warning, meaning hurricane conditions are expected, you can just about guarantee it is going to be our part of South Florida and not, for instance, from Palm Beach north, if that trend continues that we see on the satellite picture now. Let's go ahead and take a look at that satellite. We have a lot of ground to cover here tonight, but I want to get the basics out of the way here just to show you exactly where the storm is coming and what the threat is. Here you see the eye right in there, and I think in the last couple pictures you can see a little bit of deflection. Watch, here it comes, right in there. A little bit of a turn, just a slight turn to the south. As a matter of fact, it's just 5 degrees. It's not very much. And here we are right over here. So you can clearly see that the northern part of the storm, from the eye up to the top of the purple, right in there, if you bring that across, that is definitely in line with Dade and Broward County. And if it goes a little bit south, Monroe County and the Keys will be affected as well. And you see it would have to make a pretty good turn to get all the way up here. Now, there are some models that are making a slight indication that that could happen, but we're just not going to believe that. Right now, we think that most of the computers and all the guidance indicates a move in this direction here for the next 24 hours, which brings it up to us. Now, we do have the latest advisory that came out. Well, there's the close-up view of the storm, and there you can see the eye right there. We do have the latest word out of the National Hurricane Center, so why don't we go down, let's get the 11 o'clock advisory direct from the National Hurricane Center.
We have new coordinates for the 11 p.m. advisory. As of 11 p.m., the hurricane is centered near 25.6 degrees north, 71.9 degrees west. And this position is about 520 miles east of Miami, Florida. The hurricane is moving toward the west at about 14 miles per hour, and the maximum winds now have increased to 95 knots or 110 miles per hour. So the storm is getting stronger, continuing westward towards the northern Bahamas, and then behind that towards Florida. We have a hurricane watch up for the northern Bahamas. Pardon me, hurricane warning up for the northern Bahamas. We have a hurricane watch up for Florida from Titusville southward through the Keys. And we will be entertaining the possibility of putting up a hurricane warning probably tomorrow morning for some portion of the Florida coastline.
Okay, Max Mayfield at the National Hurricane Center confirming just what we went over there, that indeed we are in a watch now, warning for the Bahamas, and a warning expected here tomorrow. All right, let's send it back to Jerry and Jose, and we'll be back with as much information as we can think of to provide you here this hour, an hour and longer.
Okay, Brian, thank you. Well, with Hurricane Andrew now posing a direct threat to South Florida, people are rushing for last-minute supplies. Team coverage continues with Channel 4's Ari Otzer.
Hi, Jerry. We're at the Albertson store on Commercial Boulevard in Fort Lauderdale. To put it mildly, this place is a madhouse. To give you an idea of what's going on just outside the store, take a look at these water machines over here. People are lined up with their jugs trying to get water over here. Is it finally working, sir?
No, sir. No water, but it takes the quarter.
It's not even working, and the reason these people are out here and the reason these machines are overworked is because there's no water to be had inside the store. In fact, these throngs of shoppers over here are clearing the shelves of needed supplies faster than the stock boys can restock them. Andrew hasn't even arrived yet, and he's already creating havoc. It seems like all of South Florida decided to buy hurricane supplies at the same time. And guess what? The stores don't have enough to go around.
Water, candles, pretty much, you know, the necessities for the hurricane.
What can't you find?
Right now, water. There's no water, no gallons of water in the racks.
Ma'am, what are you looking for?
Well, evidently I was looking for water, and there is none, so...
This is the shelf where there's supposed to be water.
Yes.
And if you're looking for batteries, good luck. The flashlight-sized batteries are tough to find. And as for canned foods, well, they're practically flying off the shelves. Is this all for the hurricane?
Oh, yeah, man. Are you kidding me? I've already started boarding up my windows like last week.
Is this hurricane supplies you're buying?
Yes,
yes it is. What all did you get?
You know, just non-perishables, some bread, couldn't find any water, bleach, canned food, stuff that wouldn't perish during the, you know, if we lost power or anything like that.
Are you worried about this?
Let's just say I'm getting things prepared in advance so that if it does come this way, I'm not going to be hurting down the line.
Most shoppers here seem to feel the same way. There's almost a sense of excitement in the checkout lines, people sharing a dangerous adventure. But reality, Andrew, has a way of ruining the party. Are you worried about this, sir?
Yeah, you have to be worried about it. Yeah, it's going to be serious. It's going to get us.
Now, there's no reason to panic, even though this parking lot is jam-packed and it's after 11 o'clock. There is still time tomorrow to get the supplies you might need to be hunkered down for Hurricane Andrew if it should come our way. There are lots of stores in South Florida, folks. Just head around, look around, be patient. You'll find what you need to find. Jerry?
Okay, Ari, thanks, and we'll come back to you a little bit later. Jose.
Both Dade and Broward counties have set up emergency operations centers to help people with problems. Channel 4's Susan Wallace picks up our team coverage at Dade's Emergency Center.
Jose, we're in the rumor control room, and right now the rumor hotline is not so hot. If you've been trying to call in Dade County, the number 596-8735 or 596-8700, you know you're having problems getting through, and volunteers at this point are having trouble with some of the phone lines. There are calls getting through, but they're putting out a new number, and we're going to give it to you as we get it. It is 596-8730 in Dade County for any and all questions relating to this hurricane watch. We've just been handed a note from the Emergency Operations Center. Dade County Building and Zoning Department is calling on all builders or all people related to construction sites to clear those sites of all debris and secure all construction materials. We were out and about in South Florida tonight. People, as Ari alluded to, people are taking this storm threat very, very seriously, and as they went about their business, they give us all some things to think about. At Dinner Key Marina tonight, we found Andy Frey and his friend hauling an extra bumper out to his boat. It's a 24-foot sailboat he hopes will survive a storm. What are you going to do with her?
Leave it right here. Tie her down pretty good as I can, and just leave it right there.
And if a hurricane hits, basically, essentially kiss her goodbye.
Exactly.
People seem more interested in gassing up their cars. We didn't see any long lines, though some drivers are trying to avoid that.
If we all have to leave tomorrow, there's going to be a long line, and I don't know where I'm going to go yet, so.
You want to have enough traveling gas to get wherever you're going?
Got a lot of other things to do tomorrow. Buy garbage bags and all that kind of stuff.
Might not be a bad idea to make a trip to your local ATM, because if this storm hits and the power goes, so goes the automatic teller machines. For the thousands of homeless in South Florida, this storm threat has come as a huge surprise. Bobby, did you know that there is a hurricane watch in effect?
No, I sure haven't. I was picking up cans. That's all I know.
Where are you gonna go if a storm hits South Florida?
Well, I was sleeping down in the state building. There's about 20 or more was under there, and I didn't know nothing about it. The weather seemed calm, but I didn't know nothing about it.
I just have to find somewhere to go. I just hope and pray it don't, okay? All right? Because I know it'll be a dangerous situation under the expressway where I'm at, okay?
Yeah, what are you living in now, cardboard?
Cardboard, okay.
That stuff doesn't even stand up on a good rainstorm in South Florida.
They got a lot of huts up under there made out of plywood and boards, just put together.
Those people living in, of course, some of the most vulnerable spots in South Florida, those being the drainage ditches under the expressways, hopefully they will get enough advance notice and they will also be able to find shelter should this storm turn on South Florida. We want to reiterate that the rumor control hotline in Dade County has had its share of problems in this evening. The number that we are going to give out now is the number to call in Dade County. If you have any questions, pick up a pen right now. If you have any questions about any kind of shelters or any question related to a hurricane in South Florida, we want you to call this number, 596-8730. Now, that is different from the number we've been giving you all day, so make note of it, 596-8730. And these volunteers, which are growing in numbers, will be on duty until this thing passes anyway, at least through the night. So make note of that number and give them a call here at the Rumor Control Center in Dade County. Back to you.
Susan, before you go, that number is operational now?
Yes, I'm being told over my photographer's shoulder that it's 3-5. You guys need to talk because I've been told by 3 of you all that 8730 is the number to call. Fernando told me that moments ago. Kate Hale also told me. We are having confusion, obviously, here at the Rumor Control Hotline. Your best bet is to call 596-8730 and cross your fingers and hope somebody's picking up.
Okay, and that, of course, is for Dade County. Susan, thanks for that live report.
And for those of you who want the rumor control number in Broward, that number is 357-8454. We'll be repeating those numbers throughout this newscast. Now, folks in South Florida, not alone in keeping a close eye on Andrew. During our 7 o'clock special, the Bahamas went from a hurricane watch to a hurricane warning. Ed Odell is in the middle of it all, live via telephone in Nassau. Ed, what's it like?
Jerry, we have been in a hurricane warning since late afternoon. People in Nassau, people all over the northern Bahamas are being told to hurry hurricane precautions. We have some videotape that we shot earlier. There's a great deal of concern among officials because, as you see, laid-back Bahamians are not taking Andrew seriously enough. You might never know there's a hurricane on the way. It looks like another Saturday night in Nassau. At the airport, workers told me, well, they were not going to take too many precautions, but as the day wore on, they were worried about having to come into work tomorrow, worried about their own places. Meanwhile, they're expecting hurricane-force winds into New Providence Island about 10 p.m. That's when the eye previously has been expected to go over Abaco Island. Gale-force winds could arrive as early as late afternoon tomorrow. They're expecting that the storm will be packing a 110-mile-per-hour punch, and it's about 300 miles east of Abaco at this point. And they think the storm may be pushing a 12-inch storm surge, and there should be coastal flooding on the roads around the New Providence Island. Now, tourists have been calling from all over the northern Bahamas, from Grand Bahama, Abaco, Lutra, and Andros Island, and they're being told by officials that if they are afraid and they want to leave, to go ahead and get out early. But they say if Miami is your destination, well, it's going to be a coin toss whether you want to ride out the hurricane in Miami or here in the islands because it's going to be about the same. That's what officials are telling tourists who are calling the Weather Center. Hardware stores are going to be opening early tomorrow. They expect that a lot of Bahamians will wake up tomorrow morning and go rushing out to try to grab a few things. Of course, supplies are very short over here compared to Miami. As you know, you can tell Miami's already running out. If there's any indication that maybe it's getting a little more serious over here in the minds of Bahamians, trying to call the weather service, you can't call them anymore. Today you could get through with no problem. Tonight, the lines are busy all the time. So a few Bahamians may be caught napping here and letting Andrew sneak up on them. Jerry?
Okay, Ed, thanks very much. Jose.
For the latest on Andrew and what it means for South Florida, let's go back live to Brian Norcross.
Okay, Jose, we're going to go down now to the National Hurricane Center. I'm not sure who we have with us live down there. All right, it's Max. Max, I wanted to check in with you here. You have constant monitoring of the storm from aircraft, and we've noticed a little bit of a turn to the south, just a slight deflection to the south. Do you think that's a permanent deflection, or are we just going to talk about a westward movement?
We're continuing to talk about a westward movement. It's been about a 0.3 of a degree southward shift in the past 6 hours. Not enough to get too excited about, and all of our guidance models suggest a due westward course over the next couple of days. So we're going to stick with that due west for a while longer.
Now, I notice on the satellite picture over your shoulder there, and also on the ones we're showing here, I'm seeing some of the cloud bands already approaching the Bahamas. Now, that's not the storm so much as just cloudiness. Is that correct?
Right. Now, there could be some showers in those bands, but we do have the hurricane warning up for the Bahamas, so it will not be inappropriate for them to start getting some severe weather tonight and tomorrow.
All right, now how far in advance of the storm can we expect here tropical storm force winds, because we know that many plans cease operation, evacuations and boating and all that kind of thing, cease operations at the time of the 39 or 40 mile an hour winds. How far ahead of the storm can that be expected?
Well, the tropical storm force winds extend out from the center of the storm, possibly out as much as 100 miles, maybe a little less than that. And so at 14 miles an hour, we might be talking about 5 or 6 hours before the center reaches you that tropical storm conditions could begin.
So clearly tomorrow is our day to take whatever action we're going to take, because if you take your 520 miles here and you divide out the 14 or 15 miles an hour, you can see that the winds would be, and then subtract off the 5 hours, we're talking about significant winds here by Monday morning. So tomorrow is the day we need to take all action, right?
Tomorrow's the day. I'm putting up my window shutters tomorrow morning.
You and me both, Max. All right, we'll be back with you here. We're going to be here and try and answer as many questions as we can for as many viewers as we can, and we'll check back in with you. Thank you. All right, Max Mayfield at the National Hurricane Center. All right, let's go back to Jerry and we'll have more.
Okay, Brian, thanks. Well, lots of people out there are looking for answers to their hurricane questions. We'll take your questions live right here in the Channel 4 Help Center. In Dade, you can call 379-HELP, and in Broward, you can call 523-HELP. Now let's go to our Channel 4 Help Center where Brian Allen is taking your calls. Brian.
Hi, Jerry. A lot of things going on tonight. The phones, like they probably are at the Dade County Emergency Management, and the same with Broward, ringing off the hook. A couple of things we want to touch on first of all. A lot of calls still coming in, people asking what to do with their windows. And I'm not talking about boarding up yet. What we're talking about is, should they be opened or not? This is an old rumor that goes back a long time ago, dealing with hurricanes and tornadoes, that it once was thought that if you open the window a little bit, that'll equalize the pressure inside your house. That's the last thing you want to do. The best thing is hurricane shutters. If not, we're still talking about boarding up the windows. Leave the windows closed. Taping windows really does not do much good of anything. One of the other big inquiries we've had this afternoon and this evening also is tide schedules for boaters. Now then, tomorrow morning, low tides will be happening tomorrow morning in the late morning hours, probably between about 9 and noon. Then high tides in the early morning hours as we come in past that midnight hour tonight. And then again, high tides tomorrow, late afternoon, and the early evening hours as well, about between 3:30 and probably 6:30 as well. That information for the boaters. Calls coming in here at about 20 calls, 25 calls per minute. A lot of questions out there. Question is Brian Norcross up there? Brian?
Hi, Brian. I'm just on the phone talking with the producer because I had something that I wanted to add. Let me come back over here.
Okay.
Okay, it was just around the corner. Okay, now I'm back with you. I wanted to add something to your discussion just a second ago about closing windows, because a lot of people will argue with you on this, and they'll argue with you all day. The reason that you close the windows is because think of an airplane. When the wind rushes over the top of an airplane wing, it tries to lift it up. And people have thought that the reason houses explode, we see pictures of explosions of houses. It looks like the pressure inside was so high that it exploded out. But for the same reason that an airplane flies and the wind rushing over the top of the wing lifts it, the wind rushing around the corner of the house pulls it out. And that's why houses look like they explode, not because of any pressure difference inside and outside. What you want your house to be is to look like a solid unit to the wind and not have any way to sneak through and around or anything else. You want to be as solid as it can be. So that's why you keep those windows closed, all of them closed on all sides of the house. All right? I always wanted to re-emphasize that. Now, if you asked me something else, I'm sorry I didn't hear you.
No, what I was going to see was, if you were there, was to bring up the issue of taping windows. Now, you and I sat in the Storm Center tonight and discussed this, the pros and cons about it, and everybody seems to think that if they take enough tape, put it around the frames, and then also do an X in the middle, that if they do get damage, like say a window is blown into the house, that at least it'll be in one sheet of glass, and we're saying that that's basically not true.
Well, the thing is that if a window is blown in your house, you've got big problems, and the fact whether the window breaks or not is really irrelevant. The The fact is, and we proved this if you were watching yesterday, or we ran the series of tests, what the story is on windows, windows by themselves are very, very strong. Here in South Florida, we have the best building code in the world, thankfully, and the requirement is that windows withstand 120-mile-an-hour winds. Now, we have tested windows, we've tested single-hung windows, we've tested awning windows, we've tested sliding glass doors, and found that for the most part, they withstand way more than that. Sliding glass doors are a little bit different story, and let me address that separately. But windows will withstand way more than 120-mile-an-hour winds if nothing hits them. But the fact is, they don't withstand 50-mile-an-hour winds if something is in that wind, and that's why it's important to cover the windows. So taping them does indeed mean they'll withstand, instead of 165, they might withstand 200, but we're not going to have that. What we're going to have is flying debris, and the tape doesn't help at all with the flying debris. The other thing with tape, and anyone that lived here in the 1960s and lived through Hurricane Cleo and Hurricane Donna and Hurricane Betsy, as I remember well, is we had houses that had tape on their windows for years after, because you just can't get that tape off there, and it's not going to do you any good, and it's going to be a major headache afterward. So our recommendation is, don't tape the windows. You won't have a false sense of security. Be inclined to go try and look out the window when any little piece of gravel, anything could come along and break it right in your face. So that's our recommendation. Do not waste your time taping windows. Spend your time doing productive things.
Okay, one more thing, Brian. We're getting a ton of calls for the airports. We still don't have an answer yet as far as what the airports will do. Have you heard anything?
No, but I can tell you how they have reacted in the past to hurricanes, Hurricane Hugo in Charleston. The decision will be made sometime tomorrow, depending on the speed of the storm, and each airline will make that decision separately on when they're going to quit bringing planes in. And when they quit bringing planes in, that's when it'll be more difficult to get out, obviously. So that decision will be made during the day tomorrow, and of course, it'll be announced through, as a matter of fact, the Dade County Office of Emergency Management and Broward County Emergency Management will get that information, and hopefully they'll give us some warning, because I know a lot of folks are scheduled on airplanes, especially elderly folks. I've checked with some tonight, scheduled on airplanes that are going to leave here tomorrow in the first part of the day.
All right, thanks, Brian. We will continue to be here in the Storm Center on up till the midnight hour and probably past that to answer your questions. So we'll be down here. We'll check back in a couple of minutes, Jerry, and see what else is going on. Back to you.
Hey, Brian, thank you. Now grab your pens once more. Here's some more important numbers you can call for up-to-the-minute information on Hurricane Andrew. For the latest recorded information, you can call us here at Channel 4 News in Dade, 358-8000, and in Broward, 731-7000. With each of those numbers, after you dial the number, you press in the code 4444. Now, for your crucial or emergency questions, call the rumor control numbers in Dade County, 596-8735. That's a new number, so if you had a number from earlier...
That's the old
Oh, that's right. That's the old number. In Dade County, for rumor control, called 596-8730. That's the number that Susan Wallace told us. My producer's telling me that's not correct. What is it?
Well, we'll check in. We're going to check in with
We'll check it, but for right now, I'm being told the rumor control number in Dade County is 596-8735. We will double check it for you, but it's 596-8735. In Broward, call 357-8454. And if you're calling from Monroe County, dial 1-800-427-8340. The numbers you're looking at on the screen right now are all correct. Now, if you're in your car and if the power goes out, remember, we've teamed up with Y100 to give you the latest hurricane information available.
And stay tuned to Channel 4 News throughout the night. You might miss some crucial information.
First of all, immediately after this extended Channel 4 News Nightcast, we will repeat a very important hurricane special produced by our Storm Center called Ready, Set, Hurricane. The program bears repeating. It's packed with hurricane facts you can't afford to ignore.
Now then, after that, we will air another Channel 4 Storm Center special, a follow-up to Ready, Set, Hurricane called Answers to Your Hurricane Questions.
Overnight on Channel 4, we will show you a live satellite picture of Hurricane Andrew with the coordinates. That will be on the air continuously, and we'll provide live weather updates on the half hour.
Beginning at 5 a.m., Channel 4 News will be on the air with live Hurricane Andrew coverage for the duration. We will not run any other programming. Our Storm Center is fully staffed with our team of meteorologists, and our entire news staff will be on around the clock, bringing you the most comprehensive coverage of Hurricane Andrew in South Florida. We will be right back.
The 32-valve V8 Lexus LS 400. CPR for the terminally bored. Come in to your South Florida Lexus dealer today.
It's stupendous. It's colossal. It's really big. It's McDonald's 79-cent Big Meal Deal. Buy a medium Coke and a large fry and get your choice of a Big Mac, McChicken sandwich, or a quarter pounder with cheese for only 79 cents. It's the 79-cent Big Meal Deal, now appearing at participating McDonald's.
I never saw anything like that before.
A good look at your Lincoln Mercury dealer's summer savings storm. The storm hits big with tremendous savings on Lincoln Town Car. $2,000 cash back from Lincoln Mercury. Plus, even more from your local Lincoln Mercury dealer when you make your best deal. It's the biggest savings of the year on the most spacious, smoothest riding luxury car you can own, with the added luxury of standard dual airbags and four-wheel anti-lock brakes. So hurry and take a good look before the storm and big savings on Town Car pass you by. See your nearest Lincoln Mercury dealer today.
This More You Know message is brought to you by Southern Bell and Channel 4.
You can never talk to your child enough about being street smart.
Even when you think information like use the buddy system and don't talk to strangers is sunk in, say it again.
Kids have short memories, and it's important to keep reminding them about your family's rules for safety. I'm Bob Mayer.
And I'm Chad Mayer.
The more we talk to our kids about safety,
the safer we'll be.
From your 24-hour news source, Channel 4 News continues.
We'll get back to Channel 4's coverage of Hurricane Andrew in just a minute, but the Miami Dolphins kicked off their final home preseason game tonight at Joe Robbie Stadium against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. First-round pick Troy Vincent got his first start at defensive back and punt returner, but after bringing this punt back 12 yards early in the first quarter, Vincent pulls a hamstring and missed the rest of the game. He'll be examined tomorrow. The Dolphins with the ball on 3rd and 15. Dan Marino comes up with the pass to Mark Duper, who makes the catch and then races down to the Bucs 20 for a 51-yard play, setting up a Pete Stoyanovich field goal. Dolphins led it 3-0. After the Bucs fail to move the ball, Scott Miller, subbing for Vincent, hauls in the punt and then watch the return all the way down to Tampa Bay's 34-yard line. That sets up a 48-yard Stoyo field goal, putting Miami up 6-0. Miami had a great chance to score just before halftime when they get down to the 1-yard line. The Dolphins bring in 3 tight ends, but Bobby Humphrey is stuffed. The Dolphins were stuffed again the 3rd, but Tampa Bay wasn't. Mazio Royster goes in from 1 yard out. Bucs led it 7-6. Then the Dolphins offense scored twice behind quarterback Doug Peterson. Here he hits James Saxon, who makes a nice move and then completes the 24-yard scoring play. Miami up 13-7. Then after the Dolphins recover a fumble, Peterson hits Mike Williams from 8 yards out. Miami goes on to win it 22-7. Now, before tonight's game, the Miami Dolphins got some good news. Veteran fullback Tony Page agreed to terms. Page started all 16 games last season for the Dolphins and was valuable for his blocking, running, and catching abilities. His long holdout, however, has opened the door for Plan B acquisition James Saxon to show he deserves a spot on this team. Page said he's in great shape, but denies his failure to sign before now is due to not wanting to waste his aging body in preseason games.
Preseason isn't over. I'm here, because we finally agreed. It's just part of the business. You have to understand that it's a business, and both sides have to compromise, and which we did. And I'm happy to be back. It just took a little longer. I would have liked to have been here at the beginning of the training camp, but it's just the way it is sometimes.
Again, the Dolphins win at 22-7. Jerry, Jose, back to you.
Okay, Ned, thanks. Well, this is not the end of the Channel 4 News Nightcast. There's still more to come in the next half hour.
We will keep tracking Hurricane Andrew and give you any updates on its coordinates and movement. And Brian will be answering more of your questions. We'll be right back.
Stay with us.
We're on the road with Toyotathon Summer Clearance.
That's right, Squire, and the deals just keep getting better.
Take advantage of great deals on the Paseo. With a terrific low starting price, it's hard to believe.
Toyotathon is the best time of the year to get a great car. Traditionally, it's the best time. Also, it's the end of the year.
Or save on Tercel, America's lowest price sedan, now with factory incentives and cash back.
Save during Toyotathon summer clearance. The best time to save is now.
Home Depot is now open in Cutler Ridge at Marlin Drive and US 1. And now, America's most exciting home improvement warehouse can serve you even better. You'll see exciting displays, aisle after aisle of name brand products, including Linzer. For professional results, paint with Linzer paintbrushes and rollers. And for a watertight seal that resists mildew, use Quick Seal tub and tile caulk from DAP. So visit the new Cutler Ridge Home Depot at Marlin Drive and US 1.
You bought it, Matt. You got to handle it.
If you buy something at Circuit City, then see it advertised for less, just come back. Our low price guarantee means you'll get the difference.
Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Last week I bought this.
Plus 10% of the difference.
And today I saw this. Just open the paper and there it was.
It's that easy. Yeah.
That's it?
That's it.
Cool.
I like to get a new car every 2 or 3 years.
Cadillac sweetens the deal. Now you can lease a new 1992 Cadillac Seville for 30 months for only $498 a month after your down payment. There are also special lease terms available on the Seville STS. See the Cadillac dealers of Florida for details. It could change the way you think about American automobiles.
From your 24-hour news source, Channel 4 News continues.
Welcome back. This is a special expanded edition of the Channel 4 News Nightcast, and we're going to do our very best to answer all your questions regarding what to do if Hurricane Andrew hits South Florida. But first, let's find out what Andrew is doing right now with Brian Norcross in the Storm Center.
Okay, Jose, let me update you on air. Thank you. Okay, let me go over one thing, a little problem we're having here. If you're trying to access our line to get the latest advisory off the telephone, we are unable to update it. And I want to make an appeal to someone important at Southern Bell. We made this appeal earlier. We did not get any response from you guys. We have a problem with a couple of phone numbers. The man's name is Kip Whitlock at our assignment desk here at Channel 4, has those phone numbers. They're the ones that we use to get in to update the information. They're constantly busy. They're never supposed to be busy. Someone at Southern Bell, please call Kip Whitlock at the Channel 4 assignment desk, and he'll give you those numbers, and maybe on an emergency basis you can help us out to get those lines freed up so we can provide the information to everybody else, okay? So let's hope that does some good. All right, let's quickly go over the coordinates again just to locate the storm for you. 25.6, 71.9, 110-mile-an-hour winds moving west of 14, 520 miles out. Again, just for the timetable here, tomorrow we're going to be okay through the day, with the storm winds increasing tomorrow night, and then tropical storm force winds, meaning 40-mile-an-hour winds, arriving the first part of the day on Monday, possibly even as early as daybreak, depending on that forward speed. Just a couple miles per hour, plus or minus, could make the difference of a few hours in when that storm is going to arrive. Are you guys upstairs need to tell me what we want to do here? Go on here. Do we want to go to Susan yet? Okay, what we're trying to do is resolve the issue of rumor control. The rumor control numbers are at the emergency operations centers in both Dade, Broward, and Monroe counties, and they are for people that are going to have to evacuate in the evacuation zones. Now, if you guys upstairs want to go ahead and get the evacuation maps ready, we could do that in advance of talking to Kate Hale about the evacuation plans, just so folks that haven't been watching through the evening know who is in an evacuation zone. But okay, we do have Kate Hale. Kate, can you hear me?
Yes, Brian, I can.
Okay, Kate, let's resolve, first of all, the question of the rumor control number so there's no question.
Okay, the number is 596-8735. But, Brian, we are having some trouble with the numbers. I think it's the overload of the calls. We are having some calls that are dropping off. So if people have a problem, they need to just continue calling until they get through.
Okay, let's clarify then, Kate, exactly, let's talk about who, on an important level of importance here, who should be calling you so that we try and cut down on how tied up those phone lines are.
Okay, those people who live in barrier islands, low-lying areas of Dade County, along waterways, those people, if they have an evacuation map, who look like they're in the category 1, 2, or 3 evacuation zone.
Okay, let me talk to our control room just a second, Kate. If you folks upstairs will go ahead and get the Dade County map ready, as soon as we're done with Kate here, we'll show that map so that then we can maybe cut down a lot of people calling out there and tying up those phone lines. All right, Kate, let's talk about the timing on the plans for evacuation here. When do you anticipate having to put out an evacuation order?
We look at, if we're going to have to put an evacuation order out, and it's increasingly more likely at this point, it looks like it's going to have to go out sometime tomorrow morning.
All right, do you think like first thing in the morning?
I think it would be early in the morning, absolutely.
Okay, and the evacuation would be, just to be clear here, we only have a strong Category 2 hurricane now, but we're going to evacuate as if it increases a little bit into the Category 3 category.
Exactly. We're right on the borderline right now. 1 mile in velocity would put us in a Category 3.
All right, besides handling evacuations out there, I know that you're the nerve center for Dade County, and we have a similar operation in Broward County and Monroe County, making all decisions starting tomorrow. And you're going to have the county manager out there, so you're going to be the focus for all the decisions made on schools or anything else that might be affected for the next few days, right?
Everything that happens will be coming out of here.
Okay. All right, Kate, I know you're very busy, so we're going to let you go back, and you and I have talked a lot about this evacuation issue, and we'll go ahead and take it here and see if we can alleviate some of your phone lines there, and hopefully we can check back with you later on.
Thanks a lot for the job you're doing for us.
Okay. All right, thank you, Kate. All right, let's go ahead and cover the Dade County's evacuations. So we're talking to Kate Hale at Dade County and show you the areas that Kate was telling us are most likely, in fact, we can say without a whole lot of question, are going to be ordered evacuated tomorrow. Let's start in South Dade. This is US 1. This is the road that goes down to the Florida Keys, Florida City right in here. This is the intersection around Caribbean Boulevard where the turnpike comes into US 1. The whole area to the east of US 1 will be an evacuation zone. As we come north here, up US 1, now there's a little area in here that's a little bit high, and these are the people right by Caribbean Boulevard there in Cutler Ridge that are going to have to call that rumor control number to find out if they're going to be evacuated or not, because they're right on the borderline. But then we get US 1 up here through Perrine, and then we jog over here to Old Cutler Road, and this is around the Deering Estate down there in South Dade. All along Old Cutler Road, because this is some of the most flood-prone area in all of Dade County, is that area around the Deering Estate. And the reason for that is the bay out there is very shallow, so as the storm scoops up the water and pushes it into Biscayne Bay, it piles up as high, in the case of this storm, as 15 or 18 feet possibly in that point, maybe around 15 feet in this part of southern Dade County, right around the Deering Estate. Let's continue north, up Old Cutler Road, and then we're going to go, once we get to Coconut Grove, we're going to be along Main Highway and then along Bayshore Drive. So we'll go up Main Highway, we'll go up Bayshore Drive, we'll continue on up Brickell, and then Brickell turns into, once we get downtown here, it's a little bit different situation in the downtown area right here. So then we'll come back to that in just a second. As we go north, we go up Biscayne Boulevard, and that goes all the way up to the county line. So if you live east of Biscayne Boulevard, east of Brickell, east of Bayshore, east of Old Cutler Road, east of US 1, east of US 1 here, you are going to be ordered evacuated tomorrow, and tonight is the time when you should figure out where you're going to go. If you have absolutely nowhere to go, then that's when shelters are going to come into play, and all that information will be coming out tomorrow to tell you where your nearest shelter is. We need to cover the Broward and Monroe County evacuations issues as well, but right now let's go back to Jerry.
Okay, Brian, do we have time for some questions for Brian? Is that... No, okay. We'll go back to you in a couple minutes, Brian. All day now, grocery stores have been packed with people stocking up. Hours ago, several stores were already running out of bottled water. Ari Odzer picks up our team coverage at a very crowded Albertsons in Fort Lauderdale. Ari.
Jerry, we're at the Albertsons on Commercial Boulevard. It's so crowded here that police have now been called in to make sure that no incidents happen here with frustrated shoppers perhaps going at each other because they can't get to the last few items they need, or shoplifting events occurring. All these people you see in here, these throngs, are all shopping for hurricane supplies. Now, in fact, the stores simply couldn't be more crowded. The throngs of people are buying everything they think they need to hunker down through this hurricane, mostly non-perishable items like canned goods and food that doesn't have to be refrigerated, batteries, things like that. But one of the most desired commodities is unavailable. We're talking about bottled water. There is none to be found here. And the same thing is happening at supermarkets all over South Florida. Now that's why over here you'll see behind me a line of people trying to buy bottled water. In fact, you were online earlier, a half hour ago when we were online, and still no water here?
It's coming out.
Real slowly, huh? And all these people are putting in a quarter to try to get a jug of water. There is an easier way, folks. If you don't mind the taste of tap water, you can just use tap water. The tap water is fine now. There's nothing wrong with the tap water out of your tap until the power goes out, and then you might have some problems. This is after a storm would hit. Now, also, there is a reminder here to buy everything else you might need, hardware, things like that, tomorrow while you have the chance, because once those winds start, as Brian has been saying all night, it's really going to be impossible to go out and do any sort of shopping. Jerry?
Okay, Ari, thank you very much. Well, we're going to take a break right now, but when we come back, we'll be taking more of your questions. We have a lot of questions for Brian Norcross, and he's got a lot of answers, so stay with us.
We'll be right back.
Mitsubishi presents a luxury lease program whose greatest luxury is choice. The elegant Diamante LS, the sensational 3000 GT SL, the rugged Montero SR. Your choice, just $399 a month for 36 months. Difficult choice, easy terms, with a luxury lease from Mitsubishi. Make your choice at your Dade Broward Mitsubishi Motors dealer today.
Shoot down roaches with a common spray. And more can pop up later. That's because it can't reach the hundreds behind your walls. But Combat Roach-Killing Disc can. Its poison is carried by roaches back to their nest, where others share it and die. Combat. There's no better weapon against roaches.
From your 24-hour news source, Channel 4 News continues.
Well, do you have a hurricane question for the Channel 4 weather team? Call it into the Channel 4 Help Center. In Dade County, you can call 379-HELP, and in Broward, dial 523-HELP.
Now here's Brian Allen in the Help Center, manning the phones. Brian.
Phones ringing off the hook down here like crazy, Jerry and Jose, and we're going to bring Brian Norcross in here for a couple of minutes to discuss some things. First of all, we want to remind you guys of a couple of things. We haven't talked about this since we were back on the air at 7 o'clock. Tomorrow morning, when the warning comes up, remember that once a hurricane warning has been issued, all bridges will be locked in the down position. So that is very imperative. If you've got a boat and you want to get it out and you need to go underneath the bridge, especially if you're in the Keys or especially in Fort Lauderdale, because most of everything is connected by the Intercoastal, once a warning is issued, those bridges will stay locked down and then you'll be stuck. Number two, we want to talk about windows again. We talked on this about 15, 20 minutes ago, the idea of lifting your window open during the hurricane. Please do not do that. Leave windows closed. Again, let's, Brian, are you up there?
I'm here.
Okay. So we've had a lot of calls, Brian, because you started to touch on something earlier about sliding glass doors, and then you and I got diverted and we didn't finish on that. Do you remember what you were talking about?
Yeah, here's the issue with sliding glass doors. The windows in sliding glass doors are tempered glass, so it's very, very strong. The problem with sliding glass doors is they tend to pop out of the tracks, or the tracks pop out of the wall. In our test of sliding glass doors, we weren't even able to pressurize them because they kept folding in the middle. And you know, if you go up to your sliding glass door and push on it, right, most of them will actually open in a little gap somewhere, and that's very, very bad. If you're going to do something to try and protect your sliding glass doors, what you would want to do is across the back of the sliding glass door, put some sort of a big 2x4, some big bar back there to help support the center of the sliding glass door. That, as opposed to doing nothing, or if you just don't have anything else you can do, there's nothing better than to, well, the best thing you could do is actually put wood or some kind of shutter on the outside. But if you can't do that, then support the inside of the sliding glass door if you can, and try and bolt that board or whatever in there to help the strength of the middle of the sliding glass door. But again, the glass is very strong. It's the mounting system that's usually weak on sliding glass doors. Yeah.
Okay, we've got some information in right now. The Red Cross in Broward has told us that people must bring bedding with them for Red Cross shelters. That is the Red Cross in Broward County. Only Broward County so far. The people going to use those Red Cross shelters must bring bedding with them. A couple of other things we want to touch on so far is also the airport once again. Once we brought that issue up a while ago, Brian, we started to get flooding with calls once again. Some people have told me that there have been some reports that once the warning comes out tomorrow, if it does come out, the airport shuts down then, and that is just not true, correct?
That's right. Just because the hurricane warning is in effect does not mean the airport is going to shut down right away. The information will come out of the Office of Emergency Management in Dade and Broward and let us know what's going to happen with the airport. Now, the Broward County Airport, the Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport, is in an evacuation zone. And that evacuation will be ordered, no doubt, first thing in the morning up there. Now, we do not have specific information yet, but I can bet that I can tell you with some authority that the airport will operate as long as it safely can, and it will be an airline-by-airline decision to not bring planes into South Florida if there's any chance they might get stuck here. In fact, they'll be trying to get planes out of here. Yes, Jerry has a question here.
Okay, go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah, I'm wondering now, if I live in a condominium, as so many South Floridians do, and I'm evacuating, what do I do to the condo I'm evacuating if I don't have shutters, if there's, I mean, I guess I need to concentrate on where I'm going as opposed to securing the place I'm leaving?
No, I think we have time to do both. I think there's time to do both here. If you live in a condominium, and a lot of people are in exactly this situation, what you need to do, and you need to do this tonight, is prepare everything you want to take with you. And the most important thing that you can take with you are insurance papers, any kind of I hate to say this, but your will, anything that's important, any kind of paperwork that you could easily stuff in a briefcase or a suitcase and take with you and put in your car when you go wherever you're going to go, so that if your place of residence is damaged, at least you have the things you need to function once the hurricane is over, and you go ahead and go on back. So that's the important thing. The second thing is you just want to bring everything that's outside in to be sure that things that you leave don't do damage to somebody else's place, because the fact is if you leave something on your porch, it's probably not going to bother you. It's probably going to end up in somebody else's window.
Do you move your furniture into the hallways of the condominium, or do you...
If the windows come in, you've probably wasted your effort in moving your furniture. You're going to have a ruined place if you lose your windows and the integrity of the building anyway. So I wouldn't waste my time. I would worry about the small, valuable things and valuable paperwork.
Take them with you.
And take them with you, yeah.
Jose, you had a question?
Well, I was just going to ask you, I spoke to some people earlier tonight. They told me that the plywood is running low in some stores. Is there something some place maybe that people can go to? They can call the emergency center? I mean...
There is no alternative here. If you don't have plywood now, I would imagine that you're going to have a hard time. Although I do know we had someone from Home Depot here yesterday that said they have alternative supplies that they're ready to bring in. So just because they were empty tonight, I do not know if that means that they've used up their alternative supplies, or if now tomorrow they're going to bring in more supplies or not. Jerry?
Okay, so let's say that you don't get your plywood. The stores are out of the plywood. You're in a house. You're in a safe part of town. You're in the western part of town. You have no plywood. You have no shutters. Right. And the hurricane hits us. Do you need to stay in a hallway for the 5 or 10 hours that the hurricane is hitting us? Is it really dangerous to be walking around a house if something comes through the window?
It's absolutely very dangerous to be walking around the house. You want to be out of the exposure of any windows, because if you do not have protected windows, the air is going to be full of all kinds of debris. Any kind of, if you can look out your window and see a tree within sight of your house anywhere, the odds are that branches are going to come off that tree, and they're going to be flying through the air, and they're going to be flying through the air at 100 to 115 miles per hour, and that will do in any window. So the windows are the most dangerous things, and yes, the answer to your question is yes. I've read many accounts, personal accounts of the 1926 hurricane here. Now, this is not as strong a storm as that storm was, but they put children in those old lead laundry sinks and covered the sink with mattresses. And that's where they'd put the children in there, and then the parents would get down under the sink in the laundry room to ride out the storm. It is a frightening, incredibly loud experience. And maybe we should talk about what the experience will be like. As the winds come up, if we get the winds in the 100 to 115 mile an hour range, it will be a frightening experience just because of the sound of it. You know in your car, if you're going along the highway and you stick your head out the door, what that sounds like, that incredible rushing, howling, whistling sound, That's the sound that goes on the whole time the hurricane is going on. So whoever ends up getting the core of this thing should be ready. It's a frightening, terrifying experience, even if you're in a secure place. And yes, the answer is prepare yourself. If you have no place to go, I would get the mattresses off the bed. I would use them to block a hallway. Give yourself absolutely as much safety as possible from flying debris.
Anything else you can use for the windows besides plywood?
I don't know what it would be unless anything you can find. If you could find sheet metal that you could nail up around those windows. I mean, if you can't do anything else, secure a room. You know, pick a room first that's secure. If you only can do a little bit, if you only have 3 sheets of plywood, secure one room and maybe even secure that door to keep that door from coming in if you lose windows elsewhere in your house. But you need to provide yourself a place in your house that's going to be as safe as it reasonably can.
Okay, Brian, thanks.
We're going to go to the Help Center now with Brian Allen, who's been checking on some of the more questions that some of our viewers have. Brian.
Jerry and Jose, we want to touch on a couple of other points here for people out there tonight. First of all, if you are forced to evacuate tomorrow and you have pets, it is imperative for you to know that pets will not be allowed in shelters. Absolutely, under no condition will pets be allowed to be in shelters. What you need to do is either A, if you're going to a friend's house or someplace else to stay other than the shelter, take the pets with you. If you are going to a shelter, you can't do anything else with the pets, best thing to do is to give them a bathroom if you don't have a garage. Put some plastic in on, wait, I understand right now there's some things going on. Brian Norcross has an update for us.
Yes, Brian, let's go on and do this because this is very important to our friends in Monroe County. We have Greg Artman on the phone with us from Monroe County, with the Monroe County Sheriff's Department. Have we had a state of emergency declared, Greg, in Monroe County?
Yes, we sure have. We have a local state of emergency in effect as of 11 o'clock tonight. This is just routine for us, preparing us for the impending declaration of a hurricane warning, as you well know. It allows us to put in place some emergency directives such as locking down the bridges, things you touched on earlier, so that the traffic can move out of the Keys. Again, we're probably having some type of evacuation and obviously sheltering orders coming out early tomorrow morning when we open our Emergency Operations Center in Marathon at approximately 5 a.m.
Greg, I talked to Billy Wagner just a little while ago, and he told me that the plan right now was to operate as if a Category 2 hurricane. Is that your understanding now currently?
That's exactly what he told me. A Category 2 hurricane, we're preparing for that.
Okay,
yes,
and the reason for that, by the way, in spite of the fact that we'd be preparing for a Category 3 hurricane in Dade and Broward County, the thinking is the hurricane would be far enough north that the strongest part of the storm would not affect the Keys. Not that there wouldn't be a major hurricane in the Keys, but that the strongest part would not affect the Keys. Now, Category 2 means, and Greg, jump in here and correct me if I say anything wrong, but a Category 2, as I understand it, means that shelters will be open in the Keys, and you will not require people or ask people to venture all the way out of the Keys unless they want to. Is that correct?
A Category 2 would open the shelters in the Keys, and we would not have a evacuation order. What we will probably do is, since we have so many mobile homes here in the Keys, and of course they're very vulnerable to hurricanes, we may request those people tomorrow to go ahead and evacuate to the shelters in Dade County. That's a decision that has to come out of the Emergency Management Office, however.
Okay, I imagine that would be in the Keys. We're talking about mobile homes. Let's not confuse the issue here. Let's go to the Category 1 and 2 map here for the Keys, because that's what we're talking about. In mobile homes, liveaboards, who else in there? In the campgrounds, those are the people that we would actually like to move as soon as possible. Isn't that right?
That's correct.
All right, now, what is the road situation? Have you been in contact with your people there on US 1 coming out of the Keys? I mean, is it crowded? Are people leaving? What's going on?
As far as I know, up in Plantation Key, which is our substation in the Upper Keys, it's been pretty hectic there. The phones are ringing off the hook. There is quite a bit of movement on the highways.
All right, do you have any idea where or who those people are? We asked earlier that all tourists in the Keys go ahead and leave. Is that happening? Do you have any gauge on that?
I haven't have a gauge on that at all, really. We did put out that request, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of our tourists are taking advantage of that request.
All right, one more thing for you, Greg. I know part of the evacuation plan in the Keys calls for, at some point during the process of the hurricane arriving and as the winds increase, the bridges are actually closed in is it 7 different stages up the Keys. Do you have that plan ready to go? Is that the plan that's going to go into effect?
Once this local state of emergency is declared, and I think that's coming up very shortly, the bridges will be locked down. and that's going to happen shortly, if not already.
But not, I don't mean the Jewfish Creek Bridge and what, the Snake Creek Bridge?
Yes, those are the two drawbridges.
Those are the two drawbridges, but there is a plan to keep people, once the winds gets too high, where it gets dangerous to cross the 7 Mile Bridge or any of the other bridges.
We'll have deputies stationed at certain areas in the Keys, which will be like a last resort. We'll direct people to those shelters, and there'll be no more movement allowed on the highway. Matter of fact, once the winds reach 60 miles per hour, we'll no longer allow our deputies on the highway.
Okay, all right. Greg Altman with the Monroe County Sheriff, a state of emergency, local state of emergency declared in the Keys, which really is just a formality so that they can put some of their procedures in effect there. And again, let me just, so you folks watching in the Keys understand how this system works down there. Once it becomes unsafe to cross those bridges, the long, not the ones that open, but just the long stationary bridges there will be sheriff's deputies there closing the highway. So you will be stuck where you are, and you will not be allowed to leave once it becomes dangerous to do so. So that is the evacuation plan in the Keys, but all that, you'll have plenty of time tomorrow to do what you need to do. Okay, let's go back to Jerry and Jose.
Okay, Brian, thank you. Now, when we come back, we're going to take more of your questions, and Brian will be addressing any of your concerns. We'll be right back in just a couple of minutes.
Stay with us.
Look around America, tell me what is there on the ground, America. Seems like everywhere, every day we throw away a little of ourselves. It's time to care, pitch in and share. You know we can help. Recycle America, don't just throw it all away.
Take a good look at your Lincoln Mercury dealer's Summer Savings Storm with big savings on Grand Marquis from your local dealer, featuring available dual airbags and anti-lock brakes. Plus, Lincoln Mercury adds in up to $2,400. Lightning strikes twice with big savings from Lincoln Mercury of up to $1,450 on Sable sedan and wagon. Cars unequaled by any other manufacturer in their class for safety. Make your best deal and save even more. So hurry and take a good look at huge savings on Grand Marquis and Sable before the storm passes you by.
From your 24-hour news source, Channel 4 News continues.
Okay, welcome back to this special edition of the Channel 4 News Nightcast. We're going to go back now to Susan Wallace, I understand.
At the Emergency Operations Center in Dade County. Susan, what's going on?
Jerry, we just obtained the temporary draft list of all the emergency shelters in Dade County. What we're going to do is hang on to them, and we will release them, obviously, to you the minute the evacuation goes into effect in Dade County. That's sometime presumably early tomorrow morning. We will hang on to them. They're very detailed locations. We've got addresses for just about every shelter in Dade County. Now, as can be expected in an operation of this size at the Rumor Control Center, the Hurricane Hotline, there has been confusion about the number. Let's give you that number one more time tonight, 596-8735 in Dade County. Again, the number in Broward is 357-8454. The number again in Dade, 596-8735, and Broward, 357-8454. There has been confusion, but better the confusion is tonight than, say, 12 or 24 hours from now. In the meantime, take a look out at the Emergency Command Center just below this window where we are standing at the Rumor Control. That is where Dade County Commissioner Joaquin Avignon will assemble his entire staff starting at about 6 o'clock. So before sunrise, they will get together in this area and figure out what is next for Dade County, again, at the Emergency Operations Center in Southwest Dade. But I'll say it one more time. We have a copy of the addresses of all of the shelters in Dade County. We'll hang on to them and release them when they're needed, actually when the evacuation order is issued from this command post. So that's the latest from here.
Ryan Norcross wants to talk about shelters, but let me ask you a quick question if I can. There is a lot of confusion, a lot of chaos at the Emergency Operations Center, and it's because a lot of people are calling there who shouldn't be calling there. Who should be calling the Rumor Control Hotline?
People with valid questions. I was talking to some of the volunteers, and there are a lot of people who are frightened and alone and fearful of what to expect. But the bottom line is, save your calls for real legitimate questions about logistics, about medications. A pregnant woman called earlier wondering about her situation. Save the phone lines for the people who really have the serious questions. But they are adding volunteers as we speak, and I imagine throughout the night they will continue to do so.
You know, I think it's important right here that we say that if you are in good health, if you are able-bodied, and you have a resident, a neighbor, or someone you know who is elderly, go out and help them. You know, they need your help. And as Susan says, a lot of the people are just calling because they're frightened. Maybe if you have a neighbor who you know is alone and you can go out and help them.
Well, just a few minutes ago, Brian and I, Brian, we were talking that tomorrow is going to be an unprecedented day. We're going to have nearly 1 million people, nearly 1 million people trying to evacuate their homes. And, of course, we know that a large percentage of our population is elderly, and those people are going to have a very difficult time. If you live, we got a phone call from someone who asked us to share this information, and it bears repeating. If you live next door to an elderly person or you know an elderly person, call them, check with them, see if they need any help evacuating.
They certainly are going to need help.
Right. And, Brian, you want to say something about shelters?
Well, yeah, I'm wondering if, let's not go to Broward yet. Let's stay with Dade County here, please. is Susan still with us out at Emergency Management?
I hear you, Brian.
Okay, Susan, Kate and I, and you may recall our hurricane special just a little while ago. I don't want to have Broward up here, guys. Put anything up here. That's fine, because I don't want to confuse the issue. We're talking about Dade County only here. In our hurricane special, Kate and I have been discussing for some time how we're going to do this. Ironically, we just came to a tentative decision along with the school board to get this list out way ahead of time so people could plan. Now, do we have any way, as best of your knowledge, of distributing this information besides through the television here?
At this point, it's confined to us, but I don't know what Dade Emergency plans with this list. It is quite lengthy and quite detailed, specific addresses on each one. But I know that we are going to literally rotate a list once the evacuation order goes into effect in Dade County. But beyond that, I can't speak for Dade Emergency.
Okay. As I suspected, I mean, the question and the concern that I had and that we had here at Channel 4 is our ability to communicate with people. So this is going to be a difficult task for the folks in Dade County. And what we're going to need you to do tomorrow when this information comes out is to plant yourself in front of the television set with a pencil in your hand and a pad. If you are planning to use a Red Cross shelter tomorrow, then you're going to need to do that. Is just plant yourself there, because these addresses are going to go by. You're going to have to write them down. We're going to do our best to get them to you, but we have a lot of people to communicate with, and it's going to be a monumental task, and it is very ironic that we've just maybe turned the corner and just not in time for this storm.
And, Brian, people should know that if they plant themselves in front of Channel 4, we're going to be there, because once the hurricane warning goes into effect, we will be providing continuous coverage around the clock, so you'll get all the information you need right here.
And if you're in your car, if you have to move around, you can always tune into Y100. We will be transmitting on Y100 as well.
That's right.
That's right. Okay, shall we go ahead and do the Broward County? Let's go ahead and take a look now at that Broward County evacuation map. All right, here's where we anticipate when the evacuation order is given for Broward County, and we anticipate this happening in the morning. This is the area that will be evacuated. Starting in the north, US 1 Federal Highway will come all the way down through Deerfield Beach and Pompano Beach, all the way down through Coral Ridge here. Here's Commercial Boulevard there. This is the Coral Ridge area right in here. Until we get down to Sunrise Boulevard, we stay right at Federal Highway. Everywhere east of there is going to be the evacuation zone. Then let's skip this middle part in here because this is a little more complicated. We'll pick it up on Federal Highway down here south of the Fort Lauderdale-Hollywood Airport, all the way down through Hollywood and on down into Hallandale to the county line. So all of the islands and everywhere up to Federal Highway. Now in this area, this is the area of the New River right here. Davie Boulevard right in there, State Road 84 right through there. So this is the area that will be evacuated back up to I-95 in that very low-lying area under the big bridge there as you go over I-95. So if you live in this area, if you know you live in this area, you can anticipate an evacuation order tomorrow. If you live close to one of these corners, you are the people that should call Rumor Control to find out two things. Give them your address, and they can tell you if you live in an evacuation zone. The other thing they can tell you in Broward County on the phone is where your nearest shelter is. And Dade County will be able to tell you that tomorrow as well on the phone. The problem is, as you can imagine, with hundreds of thousands of people to evacuate, there's no way that that many people are going to find out over the phone. It's just not a possible system.
Brian, you made a good point. I'd like to repeat it. When I was asking you if you don't secure your windows, if you don't have plywood, if you don't have shutters, and you suggested secure one room.
Right.
And that really sounds like great advice. If you don't have the time or the materials or the knowledge, instead of, huddling in the hallway of your apartment for 10 hours with your children or your animals or whatever, secure one room so you have a place to go.
Just don't assume, though, if you don't secure your house, that your door to that room, interior doors in homes, and interior walls are not made to withstand hurricane force winds. Exterior walls are. So if you're going to secure a room, I mean, a garage wouldn't be a bad room because, for instance, in my house, the garage is surrounded all by cement walls.
Or a living area, for example, in a condominium. Well, I wouldn't be in a condominium. You probably wouldn't be in your condominium.
Right.
But a room that's surrounded by concrete or cement walls as opposed to...
A condominium, I'll tell you where the place to be in a condominium. If you cannot secure your windows, a place to be in a condominium is in the hallway of the condominium. That may be the safest place because obviously that's in between, generally in between two units, and you're not going to have a bunch of windows there in the hallway. So that's often a good spot in a condominium. The other thing that I want to make absolutely clear here while we're looking at the Broward County map, in spite of the fact that this is the evacuation zone, by the way, ignore the fact it's two colors. That's just because for Category 1, 2, and 3, but this takes all the way up to Category 3. So the whole area is an evacuation zone. In spite of the fact that we've been concentrating on the area near the coast, all of South Florida is going to be threatened by this hurricane on a more or less equal basis in terms of wind, flying debris. Do not feel confident if you live in Plantation or Tamarack or Coral Springs or Hialeah or Pembroke Pines or Cooper City. Do not feel any more confident there because the winds are going to be insignificantly less strong in those parts of the county than they are along the coast. The reason we evacuate along the coast is because of the storm surge, the mound of water that with this storm could be easily be 12 feet or more high with waves breaking on top of that would just inundate the coastal sections where the strongest part of the storm comes in, and we just don't know precisely where that's going to be. So that's why we evacuate along the coast. But from a wind standpoint, from a shutter standpoint, from a hunkering down in the safe part of your house standpoint, that applies to everyone within the sound of my voice tonight. Everybody is threatened more or less equally by Hurricane Andrew as he is scheduled to come in tomorrow morning.
Brian, one last condo question.
Okay.
You talked about, you know, maybe in the hallway of the condo you'd be safe, but if your condominium is in an evacuation zone, don't think you're going to be safe in that hallway. Get out.
Anyone in any evacuation zone should evacuate.
Well,
State law says you must evacuate, as a matter of fact. Now, we know, I mean, let's be honest here. We know there are people that are not going to evacuate, and they're going to be in two categories, okay? Because there are two reasons to evacuate. There are two reasons that we evacuate the beaches. In fact, we want to put up the Dade County map a second. Dade County really, this applies to, in some ways, a little more than Broward. On Miami Beach, a reasonable part of the western parts of Miami Beach is reasonably safe. All right, most of the condominiums there aren't shuttered, but many of them are. A shuttered condominium on the west side of Miami Beach is reasonably safe, but the fact of the matter is that the causeways are probably not going to be accessible if this part of Dade County gets the direct hit of the storm. So what that means is that if someone were to be injured by flying glass, if something were to happen, no emergency personnel could get to you to the hospital. And possibly for a day, possibly for more, you won't have any telephone service, you won't have electricity, you won't have any water probably. So that's why we evacuate, to safeguard people on the chance that that could happen. That's one kind of people that we evacuate. The other kind of people are the people that are absolutely threatened by this storm surge and by the high water that will come in advance of the storm. So it's a little complicated thing that even though the evacuation zone is large, some areas are relatively safe, especially on the western sections of Miami Beach would be one of the ones that come to mind. But there is no question that what we would like to see is everyone, as soon as possible, even tonight, if you can do it, get in your car, go well inland, go visit a friend. And by the way, I do know that most hotels are booked. The hotels I know all around the Miami International Airport are all full and taking no more reservations. So a hotel at this point is not a good alternative.
Brian, let's go over to Brian Allen in the Help Center. Brian, what are some of the questions you're getting?
Well, you still wouldn't believe this, Jose. We are still discussing the open-closed window issue down here in the Help Center. People still calling in saying that they've heard from other places that they should open a window somewhere in the house. We've also heard that they should open a window on the opposite end of the house. Brian Norcross, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Can we try to put this to rest one more time?
All right. The reason that people believe that, and I could show you a picture and you would think it was proof that would be the thing to do. If you were to look at a house from Hurricane Hugo as it went through Puerto Rico or someplace, you would see a house that looked like it exploded out. And just sort of conventional thinking all along has been it exploded because the pressure inside was too high. That is not what happened. What happened was the wind rushing by the house sucked it apart. In other words, as it went by, the pressure was so low on the outside of the house that it pulled the wall out. It didn't get pushed out from inside, it got pulled out. And that's why you want to keep the windows closed, because you don't want any way for wind to get inside and help that phenomenon. Because if the wind can get in, it can actually help push on the inside of the wall as well as just pulling on the outside of the wall. So keep the windows closed and keep the wind from the hurricane out. The windows are very, very strong if nothing hits them. You want to keep them closed, and they'll actually be stronger that way. I don't know what else we can say. I know that it's been a long time thing, and it's just very hard to get out of people's heads, but that's what they should do, is keep those windows closed.
Okay, let's go ahead and bring it back to pets here for a second, because that's where we started before Brian brought in the news of Monroe County's plan for now. We were talking before, if you are in an area right now and you are evacuating and not going to a shelter, you cannot take your pets with you. If you're going to leave the pets behind, try to put them in a bathroom or else a garage. If you don't have a garage, bathroom would be the next best choice. Leave them lots of water, lots of food, and also maybe, just for your own sake, some plastic on the floor. That way cleanup will not be as bad, because none of the shelters will accept pets. We did have a call from a company called Seaview Industries. They are on 3750 Northwest 6th Street in Miami. They are an aluminum company, and they will be open tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. for people who want to go down and have protective coverings made for the outside of your windows. And they say that they will be open as late as they possibly can for tomorrow. For people going to Red Cross shelters in Broward County, they must bring their own bedding with them. That is for all the Red Cross shelters in Broward County. They must bring their bedding with them. A couple more things people have been calling about. If your house is you're doing some remodeling or some construction outside, try to get all that secure, whether it's 2x4s or 1x8s or furring strips, roof tile, whatever. Just get that secured, because if that's not secured, the wind comes through, moves that. Well, that's going through people's windows, and if somebody's outside, that's going to cause some serious damage. Do not go outside tomorrow and try to trim back your trees. No one will come by to pick up your debris that you have just trimmed. It will sit there until the wind comes by and once again blow that, and that makes for a great airborne object.
Brian, let's just reiterate what you were talking about. Construction materials, you're talking about trees. We're talking about anything that's outside. You can do yourself and your neighbors a tremendous favor if the first thing tomorrow you go out and you look and you shake and you look for anything that the wind can pick up, because that is what is going to do the damage to homes that do not have shutters. In fact, even homes that do have shutters. It's blowing debris is what does the damage. It's much less so than the wind. As we've said before, the building code here is very good. It's the blowing debris that does the big damage, Brian.
Right, and one more thing, since we've been talking about airports off and on, we've had about 15 or 20 calls, people wanting information on the cruise lines and what's going on with them. We even had a couple of people who called and said, like, my sister just left for the Bahamas today. The cruise ships get the same information that we do as far as the weather. They have their own weather computers on board with them, like we do have here in the Channel 4 Storm Center. And with the storm bearing down on the Bahamas, they may be on their way back into port or around the storm, either to the north or the south. They would not definitely go into it. True, Brian?
Yeah, I don't think they would come back into port.
Okay.
Normally what they do is they want to go out and get as far away from the storm, and they are fast enough to outrun the storm. You see, the storm is only moving at 14 miles an hour. I say only. That's coming on faster than we would like, but a cruise ship can, if it were to go south or whichever direction that they would take it, it can move out of the way of the storm. So you don't need to be worried about friends or relatives that are on cruise ships. I certainly wouldn't be going out on any cruises given a choice, but if someone is out on a cruise ship, they know exactly what they're doing in case of hurricanes. They've been operating in the Caribbean for a long time, so do not worry about your friends or relatives on cruise ships.
Brian, you know, it might be nice, Brian Allen, someone called in to say they had aluminum, a company, so I guess if there's any people out there who know where you can get some lumber, whether it's a company or a private individual, if you want to call us at any of the numbers that we've listed, we'd be happy to put that information out and let people know where.
All right, let me suggest, as a matter of fact, that we have good contact with the folks at Reladen and also the folks at Roll-Up Shutters, and we've also done a lot of work with the folks at Seaview there that did call us. So maybe if we could get one of you folks to call us here at Channel 4 to our assignment desk, and then we can maybe even still tonight get that information on the air if they're going to be open tomorrow. I know that Bill Garner up there at Roll Up. If you want to call in here, Bill, and let us know if you're going to be available tomorrow to help folks out with some kind of aluminum thing put over their windows, go ahead and give us a call and we'll get that word.
Brian, this is a technical question that somebody asked me earlier today, and I really didn't have an answer to it. They said if the phone lines go down and we have a cellular phone, will we be able to use that? I don't know if you know that.
Well, in Hurricane Hugo, the cellular system stayed up. There is no guarantee it's going to stay up because the cellular system runs on a central computer operation. And the good news about the cellular system is that it's individual towers that are all over town. If one of those towers or two of those towers or five of those towers goes down, the other towers theoretically will still operate if their central operations system operates, and also if the connections from there to the phone you're calling operate, or if you're calling cell phone to cell phone, then chances are very good that at least that will partially work. It may not totally work as well as it might normally, but the odds are much higher that the cellular system will at least partially work than the
so
wire system.
Charge up your cell phone batteries.
Charge up your cell phone battery.
Brian Allen had a question, I understand. Brian.
I'm just checking on something right now, guys. The All Pet Vet Group just called in with Jerry's suggestion. They are at 2101 Northwest 25th Avenue in Miami. Now, they will start boarding pets tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. until they can go as far into the night tomorrow night as possible. All night? Oh, they will be open? Okay, I was just corrected. They will be open all night tomorrow night.
Brian, who is that again? Go ahead once again.
It is called the All Pet Vet Group. The doctor's name is Dr. Storr. Their phone number? Dr. Stone? Yeah. Dr. Stone. Okay, Dr. Stone. The phone number for them, 633-2402, beginning tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. They will board your pets for you if you have to evacuate, because, again, you cannot take pets into the shelters with you.
Let's go ahead and give that phone number one more time.
633-2402. The All Pet Vet Group.
Okay, but I think it bears repeating, though, that if you can take your pet somewhere else, leave that space for people that can't take their pets somewhere else. Because I can tell you there's much less space available for pets than we have pets to board.
Brian, what about if you go to a friend's house and you can't put your car in a garage? Can you do something to try to secure your car?
Well, what I would suggest with your car is if you can find a parking garage as far inland as possible, that's the best place. Another decent place is in the middle of a huge shopping center parking lot. The Dadeland parking lot would not be a bad place. Pick any big shopping center. In other words, get it away from things that are going to blow, trees. Get it away from trees. You'd be better off putting your cars in a parking lot somewhere and bringing one car to where you're going in a neighborhood, because most neighborhoods have trees. And there is no place to park your car if you can't put it in the garage. Normally, that's going to be real good in the neighborhood. So I would get it as far away from any debris. I would like to see that Dadeland parking lot full of cars, because people would be thinking, well, to do that.
And this is another suggestion you said earlier, but it also merits repeating, is that a lot of people have been calling me saying, well, I went to the supermarket and I couldn't find bottled water. I think, Brian, it's important to say that you don't necessarily need the bottled water. You just need bottles to put tap water in.
Right.
And it really doesn't have any,
Right, let's go over the whole water issue once again, okay? Because there's two kinds of water that we need. We need water for sanitation in case the water system goes out, and we need water for drinking. You need 2 quarts of water per day per person, and if you really want to be safe, and there's no reason not to really be safe here, have enough water for 2 weeks. That's a lot of water. That's 7 gallons of water per person that you're talking about. 7 gallons of water per person for drinking water, okay? The other kind of water that you need to have is water for sanitation, water to help you flush the toilet, water to help you wash, or whatever else you need. And that water you can put in the bathtub. Now, after we talked about this earlier, we had a very good suggestion. I talked about the need to get some caulking and put it around the drain to seal that very, very well so the water will stay in the bathtub a long time. You put the bathtub, the caulk in, and then you put the drain down in there, and make sure that that's sealed real good. Maybe even put another stopper over it and seal that up real good. But the thing is that caulking is toxic. So that will not be water for drinking in that bathtub. That'll just be water for sanitation. You need to have water for drinking elsewhere in your house. Now, Brian, you had something?
Yeah, Brian, we've been called from some of the people at Winn-Dixie, and they just wanted to let us know that they will be open 24 hours from now, as a matter of fact, that they are being open overnight. No word as to what their supply for water and batteries looks like, but they will be open they are staying open 24 hours until they absolutely do have to shut down.
All right, I have one more. Let me do one more thing on the water that I meant to mention. I'm sorry. We talk about putting water in milk jugs and putting them in the freezer. And the reason for that is that you want to pack your freezer as full of things that can be cold as possible, because everything you put in there will help keep the freezer compartment cold if electricity goes out. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to fill that jug up all the way, because anybody that's lived up north knows that as the water freezes, it's going to expand once it gets below 39 degrees, and it's going to kind of burst in there, and then if that does melt, you're going to have a flood. So you want to only fill it up with a gap at the top of your milk jug, leave plenty of room for the thing to freeze and expand as that happens.
And then, Brian, the next day, of course, if there's no power, you take that frozen jug of water and you put it in your refrigerator, and it keeps some of the things in the refrigerator cool.
I would pack the refrigerator and the freezer as full of water and food as you can. And put all your jugs in there if you can, and open it as infrequently as you possibly can, because that will keep the refrigerator and the freezer.
And another thing, Brian, is we talked about maybe getting, you know, some of those big water bottles and filling them. Of course, if you're going to evacuate, you probably don't want to get those big bottles. They're too hard to transport.
No, get the big bottles, but don't fill them with water until you get where you're going.
Okay.
It's very easy to transport bottles. It's very hard to transport water. Remember, tap water is going to be fine probably well into the storm. The tap water goes bad when the power goes off. And the reason for that is that the pressure in the water system is decreased, and all the impurities that are in the pipes already get all mixed up. So what you want to do is before the power goes out, or before the storm, fill them up. But get the jugs, put them in the car, take them with you. And we also should stress, we talk about hurricane supplies, and we haven't gone into that in a lot of detail. I think most people know what they should have. If you are going to visit a friend, take your stuff with you. Take blankets, take everything that you're going to need with you, including your food. I mean, maybe that seems obvious, but a lot of people get in their car and take off.
I think Brian Allen has something else for us. It seems that people are taking us at our suggestion, calling us to give us information that we will again disseminate, but that's what we're here for. Brian, what's up?
That's true, Jerry. You're absolutely right. In Broward County, a company called Dixie Clamp, they're on 4379 North Dixie Highway between Oakland and Commercial. They do have plywood. Hang on here one second, Julie. When do they say what time they'll be open tomorrow? They'll be open all day tomorrow, starting tomorrow morning. Again, that is Dixie Clamp on 4379 North Dixie Highway between Oakland and Commercial Park. They do have what sounds to be like a pretty good supply of plywood. Jerry, Jose, Brian.
Okay,
I think Jose has something.
Yeah, I just have a quick question for you, Brian Norcross. How long can we expect this thing to be on us if it hits direct? How long will it be upon us?
All right, in all of this, that may be the only good news in the whole thing, is the indications are, in the computer models that we look at here in the Storm Center, indicate that this storm is going to come and go and not linger. We have had storms here where the eye has actually been over Miami for over an hour. And that happened in the 1935 hurricane in November here. But the indications are that this storm is going to move across South Florida. And again, we're not sure of exactly where that eye is going to come ashore, whether it's going to come just to the south, whether it's going to come just to the north, or we just can't say with precision where it's going to come ashore. But we feel with some certainty that it is going to affect South Florida directly. But we do believe it will continue on into the Gulf. And I feel certain that next week we'll be talking about a hurricane for somewhere along the Gulf Coast. Of course, there is a strong history of hurricanes affecting Miami and then affecting New Orleans, Hurricane Betsy being one of those. So that is at least a piece of good news. Now, you asked a specific question, how long? The tropical storm force winds extend out ahead of the storm about 100 miles. The hurricane force winds, say, by the time the storm arrives, will extend out maybe 40 to 50 miles. So if we're talking about a 15-mile-an-hour storm, that's 3 hours going and 3 hours coming, plus the width of the eye, which is maybe 20 miles, 10 to 20 miles across. So you're talking about maybe 7 hours of hurricane force winds. You're talking about maybe 12 hours, as I calculate quickly in my head, of tropical storm force winds. But I'm giving you approximations here now.
Sure.
We do have the whole day tomorrow, really, as we see exactly how the dimensions of the storm figure out to go into that. But I think if you really want to sort of get your mind ready for what we're talking about here, we're talking about something that's going to start here Monday morning. It's going to actually pick up overnight Sunday night, but really start here Monday morning, and the winds will increase in spurts. There'll be a strong gust, and then it'll taper off a little bit as the bands of the storm come by, and then strong gusts. And then finally, wherever it is that's close to the eye, the winds will build up gradually until the eye comes ashore, and then they'll fall off quickly. And they'll be off for, as this storm is going, maybe half an hour, maybe an hour at the most, maybe not that long. It just depends on what part of the eye you're in. And then they'll come up very quickly, and they may come up even stronger than they were in the beginning, and then they'll taper off very, very slowly. And the whole event will likely take the best part of the day on Monday, and conceivably by Monday night we could have the stars out. If everything continues the way it is. But this is definitely a Monday, or according to the current schedule, a Monday event. But again, we're talking going on 30 hours ahead of time, and things can change in 30 hours. But just to get your mind around what the possibilities, or maybe even the probabilities are, some event like that.
Brian, thank you very much,
Brian.
Before we say goodnight, a quick reminder, don't turn away from Channel 4 News. Anytime tonight, you might miss some very crucial information.
First of all, immediately after this extended Channel 4 News Nightcast, we'll repeat a very important hurricane special produced by our Storm Center. It's called Ready, Set, Hurricane. The program bears repeating. It's packed with hurricane facts that you cannot afford to ignore.
Then after that, we will air another Channel 4 Storm Center special, a follow-up to Ready, Set, Hurricane, called Answers to Your Hurricane Questions.
Overnight on Channel 4, we'll show you a live satellite picture of Hurricane Andrew with the coordinates. That'll be on the air continuously, and we'll provide live weather updates on the half hour.
Beginning at 5 a.m., Channel 4 News will be on the air with live Hurricane Andrew coverage. For the duration, we will not run any other programming. Our Storm Center is fully staffed with our team of meteorologists, and our entire news staff will be around the clock, bringing you the most comprehensive coverage of Hurricane Andrew in South Florida.
And with that, we say good night for now. Stay tuned for round-the-clock live updates.
Good night, and we'll see you.
Good night.
Blockbuster Video has all the hot summer hits, more hot new releases, and more copies of them. Rock-a-Doodle with Glenn Campbell, Bates and Tandy in Fried Green Tomatoes, Woody Harrelson in White Men Can't Jump, Memoirs of an Invisible Man, Mike Myers in Wayne's World. Rent 3 videos and get a free Wayne's World Collector's Cup and a coupon good for a free 16-ounce Pepsi at KFC. Come see what's in store for you now at Blockbuster Video.
They could be marching into your home right now, entering through a crack in the foundation, chewing into your floors and subfloors, into your walls. Termites, there's one sure way to stop them. Call Terminex. Terminex technicians have treated over 5 million homes with methods proven to stop termites. We guarantee it. No ifs, ands, or bugs. Terminex. Call now for a free termite inspection.
Since its introduction, umpteen commercials ago, the Lexus LS400 has been hailed by car magazines, raved over by critics, and praised by owners in survey after survey. Which just goes to show that some of the most powerful advertising is the kind you don't have to pay for.
This Moyano message is brought to you by McDonald's and Channel 4.
You can never talk to your child enough about being street smart.
Even when you think information like use the buddy system and don't talk to strangers is sunk in, say it again.
Kids have short memories, and it's important to keep reminding them about your family's rules for safety. I'm Bob Mayer.
And I'm Chad Mayer.
The more we talk to our kids about safety,
the safer we'll be.
It's been a long time since our ocean looked like this, since our coast was battered, power out, no water, no phone, coastal homes ripped from their foundations floating down the street. It's been a long time. But one thing we know, it will happen again, and with the help of computers, we know how bad it will be. Hurricanes are defined by their wind speed, but it's not the wind that kills most people, it's the water. The ocean and the bay being pushed over the land, the storm surge that can reach 20 feet. Surprisingly, the deepest surges in South Florida are not here at the ocean. They're on the other side of the bay and up the New River, the Miami River, and up the canals. Tonight, we're going to find out how deep the water will be and what it will mean to all of us the next time the eye of a storm comes over this beach. Because living along the coast means living with hurricanes. There's nothing to do but to be prepared, and that's what this program is about. Ready, set, hurricane. Tonight on Ready, Set, Hurricane.
We suffered the least damage of any of the structures in the area, by far.
Is your house built to withstand hurricane forces? Meet some people whose homes were the only ones in the neighborhood who survived the storm.
I've seen some things to scare the living daylights out of me.
A new Florida law says all condominiums must allow shutters, but is anybody listening?
My experience with Hurricane Bob was we didn't have a plan.
And last year it hammered New England's harbors. Hurricane Bob got some tough lessons for South Florida's boaters.
Get the people off the areas where their life is at risk.
But first, 1 out of every 3 people in South Florida lives in a hurricane evacuation zone. Find out tonight if you are the one. When it comes to saving lives and hurricane preparedness, what do you stress more than anything else?
Well, of course, getting out of the area where the water may come in. The storm surge is there where you threaten your life.
As a hurricane moves over the ocean, it builds up a huge swell of water. That's called the storm surge. It's a combination of the low pressure in the storm and the friction of the strong winds scooping up the water that does it. When Hugo hit South Carolina in 1989, the city of Charleston was devastated. But it actually dodged the real bullet. The biggest storm surge came ashore just 20 miles north in the area around the Francis Marion National Forest. The surge here reached 20 feet high, with waves breaking on top of that. And it set this forest back 100 years. Fortunately, this area was virtually uninhabited. People here don't even want to think about what would have happened if Hugo had come in just 20 miles south. In South Florida, there's no such thing as a stretch of uninhabited coastline, and our population is more than 10 times that of Charleston. Modern South Florida has never been tested by a storm like Hugo. For clues to what it would be like, we must turn to our history. September 1926, a Category 4 hurricane, roughly the size and strength of Hugo, smashes into South Florida. The center of the storm actually passed over just to the south of the city of Miami and then moved across the state. But the corridor of destruction ran all the way from Homestead to Deerfield Beach. The storm surge rushed over Miami Beach in the early morning, cutting residents off from the mainland when it buried the causeways. This was our nightmare storm, one that if repeated over modern South Florida would make the havoc of Hugo seem insignificant. So if that hurricane were to hit today, we know what would happen here on the ocean side of Miami Beach. The storm surge would be about 7 feet deep. Now that's water rushing in that deep at about 1.5 feet for high tide, and then the huge hurricane waves on top of that. And the water would keep going in until it ran into a barrier. Here's how it works. The dome of water builds as the storm approaches. But the gentle slope of the sea bottom off Miami Beach pushes it even higher. So we get a large surge right at the coast. In 1926, the storm surge in downtown Miami was powerful enough to lift huge ships out of the bay and scatter them along the bayfront. Here at Bayside in downtown Miami, if that storm were to hit today, we'd get a storm surge level of 4 feet. Now that's 4 feet on top of the 6 feet elevation, and it was that surge plus the waves on top of it that pushed all those boats into Bayfront Park during the 1926 hurricane. Now you can see with the water that high rushing in with the strength of the hurricane, there's no way you could be here. You'd be swept away. Remember that the relatively shallow water off Miami Beach contributed to a high surge at the beach. Well, a slow-moving storm would push that huge mound of water into even shallower Biscayne Bay, making an even higher surge on the mainland. Luckily, the land rises quickly downtown, so the water won't come too far inland. The 1926 hurricane actually did its greatest damage in southern Broward County. Hallandale, Dania, and Hollywood were virtually swept away. In Fort Lauderdale, almost 40 miles from the eye, winds were still strong enough to knock down concrete walls. The situation here along the Riverwalk in downtown Fort Lauderdale is not so obvious. If that storm were to hit today, the storm surge would come this far inland and keep going west up the river. And that's the same up the Miami River or up the canals here in South Florida. The computer tells us that we could have 5.5 feet of storm surge even this far inland. So if you live along one of those waterways, you would have to evacuate. A slow-moving storm is especially dangerous here because there's plenty of time for the ocean water to be pushed up the intracoastal and the rivers. The salt water can reach as far west as I-95. Then the water is pushed well out of its banks, and inland flooding can be severe. Perhaps most surprising is here along US 1 at the Cutler Ridge Mall in South Dade. If that same storm were to move in just south of here, the bay and ocean water, the salt water, would be driven in here to a depth of 3.5 feet. If we're a high tide, add about 1.5 feet to that. Remember, waves will be breaking on top of all of that, and here we're 3.5 miles from the bay shore at this point. In a major storm in South Dade, we get a large surge at the barrier island due to that gentle slope of the sea bottom. But the surge is huge at the mainland bayfront. Then the land doesn't rise very fast, so the water is pushed way inland. It's that combination of the gentle slope of the ocean bottom, the shallow bay, and then a gently rising pitch to the land that come together here in South Dade to produce incomprehensible storm surge heights. In the worst-case hurricane, right along here, along the bay shore, from Florida City up to Coral Gables, the storm surge is calculated at 16 feet. Add to that a couple feet for high tide, and then waves of 10, 15, or 20 feet on top of it, and you've got water more than twice as high as that sign. You can't even imagine what that would be like.
We're on the road with the first ever Toyotathon Summer Clearance. With thousands of deals at Toyota dealers everywhere. Save on Camry, one of Motor Trend's top 10.
With more power and standard driver's side airbag.
Get a 36-month easy drive lease payment of $269 a month. A new Camry for just $269 a month. With these clearance deals, we're going to set a new Toyotathon record. Get in on Toyotathon Summer Clearance now.
Because you can't beat the savings.
It's stupendous. It's colossal. It's really big. It's McDonald's 79-cent Big Meal Deal. Buy a medium Coke and a large fry and get your choice of a Big Mac, McChicken sandwich, or a quarter pounder with cheese for only 79 cents. It's the 79-cent Big Meal Deal, now appearing at participating McDonald's.
I never saw anything like that before.
The pictures speak for themselves. If you live in a mobile home or trailer, you need to evacuate for all hurricanes. That's all mobile homes, whether they're tied down or not, anywhere in South Florida.
I thought maybe the trailer would be tipped over, maybe sideways or bent up, but I never imagined that it would just be gone.
Now, of course, areas are going to have to be evacuated with Hurricane Andrew as it approaches the coast. Now, tomorrow morning, we're going to know exactly which areas are going to be ordered evacuated, but we wanted to get you started thinking in the right direction tonight. Now, if we evacuate for a Category 3 hurricane, which seems the most likely, in Broward County, it's a lot of people. The whole length of Broward County, everywhere to the east of Federal Highway US 1, will be evacuated, and some areas here around the New River and down around the Fort Lauderdale-Hollywood International Airport will be evacuated even further to the west. Up here around the New River, where, of course, you know it's very low-lying there by the Performing Arts Center in Fort Lauderdale, all the way back that far in, that will all be evacuated all the way around Davie Boulevard down to about State Road 84 and I-95 in that low-lying area there, and everywhere around the airport as well. The reason for this is as the storm approaches the coast, it pushes the water in through the inland waterways and up the river, and then it all spills out, and we'll have significant flooding along the New River. But otherwise, this is water coming just directly over the coast and out of the intercoastal, so that's why we evacuate up to Federal Highway all through the rest of the county. Now, let's go on to Dade County, where the situation is different here. We have two different colors here, by the way, because everybody evacuates for all hurricanes here, and then for Category 2 and 3, we come further inland, so don't be confused by the different colors. This whole area is an evacuation zone, and we're talking about Key Biscayne, Miami Beach, up to Surfside, up to Sunny Isles and Golden Beach along the beaches, inland. Now, let's start in South Dade here because we have a significant distance inland all the way to US 1. This is the intersection with the Turnpike in US 1 down around Caribbean Boulevard, and then we'll go north along US 1, and then we'll kick over here to Old Cutler Road, up Old Cutler, and then we turn through Coconut Grove there onto Bayshore Drive, everything east of Bayshore Drive, and then on up to Brickell Avenue, Biscayne Boulevard, up to the county line. Everything east of those areas will be evacuated when the evacuation order is given, which if it's given for a Category 2 or 3, which is virtually certain now, and that would happen tomorrow morning. Now, let's go on down to the Keys because this is a little more complicated situation. The thinking at the moment is that the hurricane is going to stay far enough north that we'll be able to treat it as Category 2. However, that may change tomorrow morning. As of the last time I talked to Billy Wagner at Monroe County Emergency Management, he was thinking Category 2 because the hurricane would be up in this area and the Keys would be on the weak side. Shelters will be opening in the northern Keys and the middle Keys, both northern and middle Keys, but no one would be ordered evacuated off the Keys. Everyone in mobile homes, liveaboards, anybody in campgrounds would all be evacuated, but to shelters within the Keys. Of course, anybody that does not need to be in the Keys should get on out, and the shelters will be open in southern Dade County at the FIU campus, and there are signs as you leave the Keys. Let's go on, though. If a Category 3 evacuation is ordered for the Keys, that means the entire Keys, from top to bottom, are evacuated. And again, the main shelter location is in South Dade County at the FIU main campus. So that's where we stand with the Keys. So evacuations, remember, are not in effect tonight, but it's very, very likely that they will be ordered tomorrow morning, and Florida law says if you're ordered to evacuate, you must evacuate, and I want to urge you, don't be part of the problem. If they tell you to go, get out early and let them deal with the people that are a problem and are going to continue to be a problem through the evacuation period. All right, that's it on evacuations. We'll be back with more of Ready, Set, Hurricane in just a minute.
Where's the body?
It's out back.
Finally.
Where have you been?
The darker chapter.
My secret diary. Her page is missing.
Before Laura Palmer's murder.
Freak accident.
The killer will strike again. Who knows where or when?
Twin Peaks. Fire Walk With Me. Rated R.
Starts Friday, August 28th at a theater near you.
Call this toll-free number now to receive a vacation value discount book free during Kissimmee St. Cloud's Great Fall Winter Getaway. Stay right in the heart of Central Florida's attractions. Save on hotels, dining, and tickets to Walt Disney World's Magic Kingdom, Epcot Center, Disney MGM Studios, as well as SeaWorld, Watermania, and Universal Studios Florida. Call 1-800-992-KISS today and receive a free coupon book and save on your Kissimmee St. Cloud Great Fall Winter Getaway.
Now, if the reason for a hurricane evacuation is to get away from the storm surge, the question is, what about high-rise condominiums like these near the coast in Fort Lauderdale? In the worst case, we found the storm surge would only come up to the second or third floor. So is it safe to stay in a building like this during a hurricane?
Especially on the immediate coastal areas, and as you go on north up into the Hallandale, Hollywood area, and the immediate coastal areas, those high-rises do need to be evacuated there.
The higher you are off the ground, the higher the wind speeds get in a hurricane, and that doesn't change very much as you go inland.
I can't see the wind discriminating on against a high-rise here on the coast versus a high-rise in central Miami, a high-rise in the Aventura area, or a high-rise on Brickell Avenue. The buildings still stand up free and tall in the air, and I just can't see the discrimination as far as the wind effect on one building versus the other.
One more reason that coastal high-rises are evacuated is that they're extremely vulnerable to being isolated after a storm. Residents could easily become stranded in these towers, cut off from power, water, communication, and medical help. Later in the show, we'll talk about protecting them. There'll also be lots of water in places like this in West Broward, not from the salt water that will come with the storm surge, but from the fresh water that'll come up out of the canals because of the heavy rains that come with the hurricane.
We really know very little about what's going to happen in freshwater flooding.
August 16th, 1981, Tropical Storm Dennis, a big, soggy, slow-moving menace, passes to the west of metropolitan South Florida.
Traffic here is a mess. Cars are stalling out. Some cars have to be towed. And Metro Police say this is pretty much the scene throughout South Dade today. Most of the roads south of Flagler Street are reportedly flooded.
Half of Dade County was like a swamp. In Kendall, where this man could walk out his front door into waist-deep water, the two-day rainfall total was over 20 inches. In Homestead and Florida City, no wake zones were established in the streets, and kids snorkeled in their front yard. 19 inches there had driven snakes, scorpions, and alligators into close quarters with the residents. Even as recently as 1981, the western and southern parts of Dade County were still mostly agricultural areas, and the tropical storm did most damage to crops. Next time, it'll be a different story.
Those areas are the areas of development now, and those are the areas people have moved into in the last 10 or 15 years. They will be subject to freshwater flooding.
Out here in West Kendall on Kendall Drive, you can see the problem. The road is the highest point around. It's like a levee, and then the land falls off on either side, so the housing areas are below road level here. Now, 10 years ago, during the big floods, a lot of this housing wasn't here. Now, today, a lot of the land's been paved over. There's not as much place for the water to soak in, and the flooding's going to be even worse.
If it's very typical for them to see flooding in their areas during the summer, they need to think about that because certainly they're very likely to flood freshwater flooding in a hurricane.
What it means is that inland residents on low ground need to have a hurricane plan, just like people living along the coast.
They need to be ready to seek higher ground, to move up in their buildings, to have supplies, if it's possible to go to higher ground prior to that sort of storm moving into the area, then it's certainly something they should consider.
Residents in freshwater flood areas will not be ordered to evacuate, but if you're concerned, you may want to. Okay, so who should go? First of all, anyone living in a coastal evacuation zone should evacuate immediately, and that includes all coastal high-rises. Anyone living in a mobile home anywhere in South Florida will be evacuated for all hurricanes. If you live in a high-rise in the inland sections, you should either evacuate or move to a lower, more secure floor. Or if you're concerned at all about the structure you're living in and its safety, you should evacuate. Don't take any chances. Okay, that's who should go. Now, who will go? Do you have a plan that you know what you're personally going to do if a hurricane would threaten?
Well, I have my insurance and I have my shutters and everything is fine here.
Well, where will you go?
When a hurricane comes, I stay home.
So you're going to stay on the key?
Oh, why not? It's safe.
We've got so many people who've never experienced a hurricane, so many elderly people in certain areas that are going to need to be evacuated, and so many different cultural backgrounds that this community is made up of. It's going to be difficult to predict exactly how people are going to respond when that hurricane comes along.
So, just how many people are we talking about? For a Category 4 hurricane like Hugo, the numbers are staggering. In Broward County, 438,000 people live in the evacuation zone. That's about 1 of every 3 Broward residents. In Dade County, over 600,000 live in a Category 4 evacuation zone, just under a third. And in the Keys, everyone lives in a Category 4 evacuation zone. Depending on the seasonal population at the time, it would be anywhere from 40 to 90,000. That's a total evacuation potential of over 1 million people for South Florida. How many of those would really go?
Over the years, we've compiled a database of a lot of different situations in a lot of different locations, and so patterns have emerged.
Dr. Jay Baker of FSU studies how people act during evacuations.
The important thing is that people will be willing to evacuate if it's made absolutely clear to them that they need to evacuate. The hard part is making sure that people understand that the evacuation notice applies to them.
There's no crystal ball to tell us how many people will receive or respond to an evacuation order. Once again, the best answer may lie in our recent history.
The storm is stalled off the coast of Florida. It's gaining in some strength, and we're beginning to feel it now in the coastal areas.
In September of 1979, Hurricane David tore across the Caribbean, killing 1,300 people in the islands. Once over open water, forecasters expected it to intensify and follow a track that would bring it in for a direct hit on South Florida during the Labor Day weekend. Late Saturday night, Florida's Governor Bob Graham urged the evacuation of the Florida Keys. 24 hours later, the governor ordered the evacuation of all low-lying areas from Marathon to Palm Beach.
But don't come unless you have a real medical problem.
Too many people tried to check in to Jackson Memorial Hospital and were sent on to shelters. Once they got there, they found some not open, others poorly stocked, and without proper food and medicine for the elderly.
It's miserable.
To this day, no one knows exactly how many South Floridians evacuated for Hurricane David. Estimates place it in the tens of thousands, or fewer than the hundreds of thousands that were ordered.
I was with all my friends here. We partied the whole night.
Of those people who said we were told to evacuate, 88% did. Of those people who said, no, we weren't told to evacuate, 8% did. All of the interviews were done in the area that was told to evacuate. So a lot of people in the area that was told to evacuate, not just Miami Beach, but flood-prone parts of Miami, the city of Miami as well, a lot of those people didn't understand that they were supposed to evacuate.
It's never been your style to live like anyone else, so why start now? Ethan Allen introduces the American Dimensions Collection. Eclectic and most agreeably priced for people who really love to live at home. Right now, there's a sale going on at your local Ethan Allen.
During DOC's back-to-school savings event, some people actually dress like students to get their frames for half off. Now everyone, 8 to 80, student or not, can get our best-selling frames for half off. Plus, you'll get them in 60 minutes or less. And as always, there's no risk, because you get 30 days to try your glasses or contacts, and if you're not 100% satisfied for any reason, you'll get your money back. You have my word on it.
Welcome back to Ready, Set, Hurricane. We hope by now you've called the Help Center to find out if you're in an evacuation zone and if you're going to have to go. We've seen the numbers, and what you know is that getting everybody out is not going to be easy.
I don't think that people understand how long it could take them to evacuate.
I'll wait until the last minute.
You don't have to be a traffic engineer to know that our population has grown too fast for the roads to handle.
It kind of worries me because I know there's only one way in and one way out, and everybody's going to be leaving at the same time if it ever came to happen.
An evacuation this size has never been attempted, and it will take longer than you can imagine. Broward County hopes to be able to issue the evacuation order 21 to 26 hours before the dangerous part of a Category 4 hurricane arrives. Dade County needs 13 to 17, and in the Florida Keys, 30 hours.
The Florida Keys, that's always one that I'm most concerned about because I know pretty well the people in the Florida Keys. I've spent 27 years here in South Florida, and I know there are a lot of people who are not going to evacuate when the sun is shining and the sky is blue. And then the water starts to come up, and the winds start to pick up. And they say, well, maybe this is a little stronger than I thought it was. Maybe I'll try to get out now. And so then they get on the road, try to get out, and they're not going anywhere.
Being prepared to leave early in the evacuation could be a life-saving advantage. Are you concerned at all about the causeway, about being stuck?
Of course. I don't think I'd wait until the last minute or anything like that. If they said get off the island, I'd get off.
I guess we would leave quite early. We wouldn't wait till the end, and we would take with us what we could in terms of our personal papers and belongings.
Take your hurricane supplies with you, and if you have a pet or care for an elderly neighbor or relative, remember to add plenty of time to your personal plan to take care of them. The later hours of the evacuation will happen under worsening conditions. Squalls with heavy rain, pre-storm tides, and gale force winds. For those who have waited too long, things could go horribly wrong.
Panics during disasters are rare, certainly more rare than people generally believe. The times that panics occur, though, are when people believe that they're trapped. So I wouldn't rule out the possibility of certainly if the traffic was clogged and the water started rising around the road, people are going to start doing something dramatic.
Getting out of the endangered area is really only half the problem. You have to have a place to go. During the Hurricane David evacuation, too many people took the turnpike north to Orlando, and there was nowhere to put them. Ironically, David went north too. Do you have a plan for yourself personally, knowing what you would do if a hurricane would threaten?
Well, we got pretty close to it a couple of years ago. We really have friends who live inland in Kendall, and we have discussed with them how we would leave.
To be safely out of the storm surge, coastal residents really only need to move inland, out of the evacuation zone. In Dade and Broward counties, that means west. In the Keys, it means north to Dade County. Do you know what you are going to do if a hurricane is threatening South Florida?
Not really. I would take my car and drive up as far as possible.
Get out of South Florida?
Out of South Florida.
Unless you get a very early start, driving north out of your county is an incredibly bad idea. Except for residents from the Keys coming into South Dade, other areas of the state are not prepared to receive you, and worse, the storm may catch you on the road. If you don't have a friend or relative with a safe place inland, public shelters are the last resort. Your stay will probably not be comfortable, but it should be safe. It'll be crowded, food will be limited, and there may be no electricity. Do bring your own blankets, medicines, toiletries, radios, baby food, and diapers. Do not bring your own food or your pets. They won't be allowed inside.
Channel 4 News, real life, real news.
Famous label tops and bottoms. At fine stores, $18. The identical items at Ross, $9. The only difference is the price.
It's kind of unbelievable that people in America are eating 40 pounds of sugar a year. I was told about it, first of all, by someone who was a nutritionist and said, Sherry, you've got to make some changes in your diet. I have equal, and I feel happier because I feel okay, it tastes good to me, it's just there, I use it, I like it. You got the sugar, you got the pink stuff, and you got the Equal.
Equal has the great taste of NutraSweet and no saccharin.
I choose Equal.
On your mark,
it's time to change America.
get set,
Round one starts tonight.
go. The conventions are over and the race for the White House is on. Nobody covers the campaigns like Channel 4 News. The candidates, the issues, the drama. Only Channel 4 News cuts through the rhetoric to bring you campaign stories that matter. Complete coverage of Decision 92, Countdown to the White House, only on Channel 4 News. Live, this is a Channel 4 News Storm Center alert, tracking Hurricane Andrew.
Good morning, everyone. I know this is a trying time for all of us, but this is really not a time to be upset. It's a time to really be paying attention and knowing exactly what you have to do. Right now, let me give you the latest position. It's at 25.6 north, 71.9 west. The winds are now up to 110 miles per hour, and there's a good chance that it still may strengthen. It's 520 miles away, and it is heading directly in our direction. And so you are all going to have to keep alert all through the next 24 to 36 hours. And right